Nighttime wasn't late in the winter, so no one questioned when Almond and Lilu stayed behind, assuming they hadn't overheard Lilu threatening to run away. Lilu peered into the infinite darkness of the woods, wondering if her species had nocturnal behaviors. Well, she learned quickly in the wild. No rules, no manners, no etiquette. Just survival. "When do we leave?" Almond asked. "I was waiting for a sign," Lilu said. "The sign says don't go." Resisting the urge to smack Almond, Lilu said, "Never mind, I'm ready." As she came closer to the limits, heat filled her head, and she questioned her decision. She put her first paw over the imaginary line, then the next paw, the last two paws afterward. Relief washed over her as breath whooshed from her lungs. She glanced at the straggler. "Hurry up, we haven't got all day." Almond squeaked and leaped to join Lilu. Some embarrassment filled Lilu. Almond was able to jump over the line with seemingly no fear. "What the? No rushing. This is a moment. Go back there and take several slow steps over and tuck your tail." "Why do I need to tuck my tail?" "So you look wimpier than me," Lilu thought. "Because the forest is so wet, the water might dissolve your candy butt," Lilu said. Almond shot back, "Just because you're more scared than I am gives you no right to pick on me." Those words pierced like an arrow into Lilu. "Okay, fine. You get awfully snippy in the night." She stepped onto more wet grass and moss. "Like I said at the sleepover, I have a routine I follow before bed, and this is not my routine, not at all." "That's why we're doing this," Lilu said, hopping over several tree roots, "to avoid having to follow routines or schedules." Upon deeper entrance, the trees wrestled limbs with each other. Shade made the forest nearly pitch black, and each footfall met rocks or mud or grass. Rivers trickled as they crossed a small stream, and under some trees, they came upon an incline of gnarled oak roots, unsteadily leading to a bush flanked by foliage. "A bush is in the way," Almond said. "No, really, are you sure that's not a small tree? They get real short this time of year." Lilu pushed against the bush as the branches raked her coats, leaving white marks. "Come on!" She trampled the leaves with great effort. As she got over the other side, she expected Almond to have joined her. Instead, she was sniffing dirt and rocks. Since she liked rocks, Lilu threw one at Almond to get her attention. The Koiwa frowned before jumping over. Refocusing, Lilu advanced. Something red flashed. Her heartbeat quickened. "Huh?" She shook her head and sniffed around, getting a musky scent. Pungent. A wilder. They barely got 30 minutes into their trip and something was about to attack them. Diana's ears shut up and she scanned the shadows. Keeping herself away from unknown foes, she walked the middle of the lane while Almond stuck to her side. The trail wrapped around and they crushed mushrooms underneath their feet as Almond's breath got heavier and felt warm against Lilu's coat as she was about to scold the dog for being so noisy. Something brightened in her peripheral vision. Lilu's heart fluttered as she gasped and dropped. A flash of orange flew overhead, warming her back. The fireball hit a tree while Lilu attempted to locate the source. Smoke curled from the base of the tree as the flames reached the canopy and spread across the ceiling of the forest. Lilu shouted, "Who's out there? Show yourself for the butt kicking you're about to receive." A blood-red fox darted from a fern and charged. Lilu froze for a second before rising on her hind legs. She prepared to stomp the attacker, but she disappeared into flakes of embers. Lilu bit her lip while Almond gawked at the inferno. The fox appeared in front of them, catching them by surprise. The Koiwa bit at her shoulder, but the fox dropped into a docile pose and uppercut Almond's jaw. The Koiwa's teeth clicked. and she stumbled. The fox approached Almonds, but Lilu tackled her. Both bounced off a dirt path over several rocks. The stones jabbed into Lilu's side as the fox released several yelps. Lilu kept a good grip as they landed on soft earth. With a few grunts, she pinned the evildoer's shoulders. "Who are you?" "You're the one invading my territory." She had wild, blue eyes. Lilu took her appearance in, a blood-red coat with dark blue ears and tail tip, and realized that, despite a disgusting odor, she seemed well-groomed and well-fed. No visible ribs or anything. "Too bad you're the one under me," Lilu said. "Not for long." The earth rumbled, and 2 stone pillars trapped Lilu's arms. She blinked while the fox slipped from underneath her grasp. As Aina struggled, the fox stood by her backside. "There's only one punishment fit for someone who trespasses like you two." As Lilu realized she was prone, she yanked with all her might, almost dislocating her arm in the process. The fox rubbed her paws together, sparks flying from them. The tunnel blazed in the background. Then, the fox slapped Lilu's rump. Lilu's eyes widened before the fox kept the process going. Jets of flames came out of the backs of her paws as she unleashed a huge volley of spanks. Screaming, shrieking, yelping, and yipping, Lilu yanked even harder than she probably physically should, straining her muscles as she felt her bottom burn. The fox stopped at 1,000 spanks, leaving a burning butt in her wake. Now, for the finale. The blaze from the tunnel swarmed over to the fox's rear, forming 8 new tails. She jumped into the air, reaching full ascension when a bubble engulfed her. Bloop. Lilu gawked at the source, a cobalt blue fox. She almost thanked her before the fox spat 2 more bubbles and trapped them. The blue fox shook her head. "Kira's." "No, we're not Kira's," Almond said. "That's my name," the blood-red fox said, signing her eyes. "You're going to let us out of here right now," Lilu said, pounding on the walls. "Got that, or else my mother will." Before she finished her sentence, the bubble floated farther into the air. Lilu scratched at the surface while everyone below shrunk to ant size. "That bubble's unpoppable, lass," the blue fox said. "You're going to the sun." Lilu's eyes bulged from her skull. She screamed, "Come on, he can't be real." The ground became distant. "Fine. Please release me." "If you want." The bubbles popped. The 3 fell with Lilu's impact sounding like a bomb dropped. While her butt still hurt from the slaps, Lilu didn't feel searing agony. Instead, she felt something soft underneath her rear and saw Almond. "Thanks," Lilu said and stood, allowing the coil to reinflate her lungs. Kyrus asked, Are we going to kill them now?" Lilu and Almond flinched. The elf had chuckled at her friend and said, "We're not killing any civics. Let's they families be honest like sharks on chum. However, y'all still owe me an explanation." "Civics?" "Civics?" Lilu asked. "Is that supposed to be some sort of derogatory term for those of us arriving from civilization like wisdom?" Lilu shook her head, her mane flying all over. "That's just rude." "I can make a new bubble." "I'm good." With a flick of her brush, Rivo said, "Kiraz, bring our prisoners with us." Kira saluted. Aye, Captain Rivo." As the prisoner transportation went underway, Almond whispered to Lilu, "Rivo does the sea talk, but Kiris won't." "Yeah, so?" "No one in the wild speaks like that. Or they shouldn't, because that dialect comes from civilization and towns. Notice how she moves." Kiris kept low, while Rivo took measured steps forward. Like a fox?" Kiris thinks around. However, Rivo takes longer, more prideful strides. Kiris's walking pattern is more of someone who's used to hiding, meanwhile Rivo's pattern is more someone who's used to showing their presence off. And I'm limping and can barely breathe because Kiris almost broke a rib. Basically, Almond said, Rivo's totally from Wisdom and Kiris has never even been there before. You can even smell the conditioner of Oceania, which uses... Almond listed the ingredients which could be found in the wild, but Lilu lost the plot halfway through. So Rivo's from Wisdom, and Kiris is not, Almond concluded. The trees gave way to a field with a hole in the ground. This is my den, Rivo said. You can all remain here for the night, and then you all have to return home. Lilu frowned. She intended to stay away from Wisdom, however better keep the peace while she had to. Rivo walked off. Where are you going? Lilu asked, hiding her glee. I walk at night, Rivo said. Kiris, keep guard. The younger fox sat at the entrance hall and bristled her fur. A field of tulips laid to her left. As Rivo leapt over the horizon, Lilu said, Look, I don't want to go back to my mother, so just let's go. Why would I? Do you know how hard civilized living is? Lilu asked. We have schools and clubs and all this social stuff. We are all bound by certain laws and rules. We don't have the freedom to be ourselves and do what we want because society would call you a pariah. Kiris leaned forward. So you can all play together without fear of territorial disputes. Since she missed the point, Lilu continued with, I have to learn how to bake bread. Bread? Lilu said. Basically, bread is ground up wheat. You grind the wheat up and you make something you can eat. Sometimes you put stuff on this, sweet stuff to make cakes, or put sweet stuff inside to make pies. Kiris licked her teeth as she stared in the direction they came. I'm sorry for your suffering, but I'd rather not get bubbled by Rivo. Lilu growled but tucked her tail. Almond grinned nervously. At least you're still alive. Lilu stared at Almond, making the coy whiff retreat. As Almond huddled in a corner, she said, Just saying. The plan failed. Rivo took the 3 away in the morning despite her need for sleep. Kiris sat in the empty den, still filled with the perfumed scents of Almond and Lilu. They were different. Big-framed, well-fed, sickly sweet-smelling, and more like Rivo instead of Wilders. Something about the familiarity of their scents bothered Kiris, as she wondered about how much Rivo knew about civilization. The blue fox only told her to stay away at all costs. Rivo kept secrets from her, not even mentioning the basics of bread. And when someone is limited in world view, they don't know what questions to ask. She never knew to ask about bread or other types of food. Now, she knew. She wanted to taste bread and go to a club. It's never in the sense of the two. She pursued their trails. Sure, Rivo could track her scent and might encounter her, but Kiris would say she was just following Rivo. Plus, this was only for a day.